Well, I'm not by the ocean, but I'm in the next best place. Now, this is not the wilderness. This park is actually a little bit maintained, but it's very close to wilderness, and it's not a bad place to be at in Arlington, Virginia. I come here often because it's so peaceful and so beautiful. But anyway, guys, I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying 2023 so far. Now, if you like the ocean and you like that necklace and earring set that you saw in the introduction, then you're in the right place. We're going to learn how to make that beautiful set, and we're going to be using the beads that came in Curated Bead box for the month of January 2023. The name of the box was Mythical Mermaid. And if you're a beginner, don't worry. I know the necklace looks a little bit complicated, but I'm going to show you how to make it step by step. I'm always a little nervous and I feel a little intimidated sometimes because I know I have some advanced people here as well. But hopefully I can give you some inspiration if you're advanced, and maybe you can learn something new from me. I don't know. Now the sun's probably creating some sun flares behind me. That's because it's about 2:30 in the afternoon, so the sun's a little bit low in the horizon. Hopefully it's not too distracting. But anyway, guys, I love to come out here because it's just so peaceful, and I absolutely love nature. I really do. And I'm a little torn because I would love to move to the ocean side somewhere, but I also like this kind of setting. It's a metropolitan area, but we have little pockets of wilderness here and there. We have little parks that we can go to escape. One of the things that I love about the DC area is that it has a lot of cultural things, which I love. I love going to museums, and I love going to theater and restaurants and those kinds of things. So I'm always a little bit torn about what I want to do with the rest of my life and where I want to settle. Plus, I've had a few health scares. I had my wrist fracture in July of last year, and I have some low bone density, which is one of the reasons why I fractured my wrist, believe it or not. So I have to address that, and I've already started addressing that. I've increased my impact exercises. I'm doing a little bit of jumping, a little bit of trotting. I'm not going to say jogging because I don't like jogging anymore. I'm too old for that. But I do trot from time to time down the street. It looks funny, but I think it's good for my bones. And as long as I'm physically able to do it, I'm going to try to do it. I'm also taking some supplements. I'm taking collagen. I don't know if that'll help or not. If any of you have tried that, I would love to hear about it. Leave some comments down below if you have time. One thing I don't want to do is I don't want to take any drugs. I've done a lot of research on that, and some of them are quite toxic. Now, I'm not telling you can't do it. Obviously, you need to follow your doctor's orders, but I personally do not want to take drugs if I can help it. Now, it's not osteoporosis and it's not osteopenia just yet, but the numbers are pretty low and I'm getting very close to it. And I do have a couple of risk factors, one of them being family history. My father had osteoporosis, and the other risk factor is that I'm kind of low weight for my age. I'm a very petite person, and people who have low weight have a higher risk. I'm trying not to get too freaked out about it because I am taking measures. But now's the time to work on bone density issues, because as we get older, we lose bone and we lose muscle as well. So I'm doing strength training, and the other thing that I'm doing is balance training. I think that's important as well. And it's not that I haven't been doing strength training, because I have, but I haven't been doing enough. So I've increased the amount of weight, the amount of repetitions, and the types of exercises as well. I mean, it's a given, guys. If you spend a lot of time sitting down and you don't do anything for your strength and your endurance and your health and your fitness and your cardio, you're going to end up with problems. And I know many of you already know that, but maybe some of you haven't thought about it. The thing about low bone density or osteopenia or osteoporosis is that it kind of sneaks up on you. You have no clue that you have issues until something happens. And of course, if you have regular DEXA scans, you can find out as well. And I hadn't had one in about 5 years. And also, you know, if you have a condition already, it's not too late to incorporate some kind of exercise into your routine if you can. I know some of you are physically unable to do so, but the best thing to do is to check with your doctor and find out what it is that you can or can't do. And I know many of you already know this information, but I feel obliged to talk about it with you because I know a lot of my viewers are over 50 years old, and it's important that we address bone density issues. And why do I care? Well, it's because I do care about you, okay? I really do. I want you to be happy, and I want you to be as healthy as possible so you can live a long, healthy life. Helping other people has been a huge part of my life, pretty much my entire life, to be honest, because I taught fitness classes for, I would say, 3 decades. It was a long time. I started back in the days when we had striped leotards and leg warmers and headbands, if you can believe that. So I know a couple of things about fitness and wellness. I'm not a medical professional by any means, but I do know a little bit about fitness and about what you can and can't do as far as exercise. So anyway guys, if you haven't had a DEXA scan lately, think about doing so. Check with your doctor and see if you can schedule one for you. So anyway, I don't mean to preach at you. I just wanted to bring that to the surface because I care about you and I want you to be as healthy as possible. I know you're here for a tutorial, and like I said, we're going to be making that gorgeous necklace and earring set that you saw in the introduction, and I'm going to leave a link down below for Curated Bead Box if you're interested. And if you don't have the beads or you don't subscribe to that box, don't worry, because I'll leave a list of all the materials down below in the description section of this video. And I'm also going to leave a list of the tools that I'm going to be using today. And by the way, at the end of this video, I'm going to try to sneak some lipstick on and put the necklace on and model it for you out here in the wilderness. I'm probably going to get a lot of looks, but I don't care. Usually I like to model it in my studio. I like to put on something nice and glamorize myself to model the pieces. But today I thought, you know what, I'm going to take the necklace with me, and whatever happens, happens. And if I get a lot of stares, so be it. And honestly, I don't even know why I should be bothered at my age by what people think. I should be able to just blow it off and do what I want to do. But I'm very self-conscious sometimes, and I don't know, I just feel kind of silly putting a necklace on out here, but I am going to do it, okay? So stick around to the end. So anyway, guys, I don't want this video to be too long, so let's go ahead, turn the camera around, and we'll get started. And here we have Curated Bead Box for the month of January 2023. The name of this box is Mythical Mermaid. Let's go ahead and select the beads. We're going to use several strands from this collection. One of the strands that I really fell in love with were these beads here. I thought these were gorgeous. I absolutely adore the color of these beads. These are electroplated faceted glass beads, and the color is blue. It's more like a midnight blue, I would say, and they measure 10 millimeters in size. We're also going to use this strand here. The color of these is dark aqua, but this doesn't look like a deep aqua. This looks like a regular aqua color. These are called marble style glass beads, and they do have a little bit of a dark marble effect, as you can see. And these also measure 10 millimeters in size. We're also going to be using some of these beads. These are glass pearl beads, as you can see, and they're 6 millimeters in size. And the color of these is sky blue. But this doesn't look like a sky blue to me. It has a little bit of a purple tint, but I absolutely love the luster of these beads and the color. We're also going to be using some of these beads here. It's a little difficult to see because they're in the bag, but these are called Galaxy Luster Glass Beads, and they measure 10 millimeters in size, and the color is morning gray. For the focal part of the necklace, we're going to use this beautiful component. As you can see, it has 6 loops, and it has a hammered effect on the surface. Very pretty component. Now I do want to try and make some earrings today, so I think I'll use a couple of the beads from this collection here. These are oval beads, as you can see, and they measure 16 by 12 millimeters, and the color is sky blue. We're going to be using a lot of the items from the Finding Starter Kit, and we'll go over them in just a second, but we're going to use the jump rings, we're going to use the beading wire, we're going to use the ear wire hooks, and what else? The lobster claw clasps. So we're definitely going to be using a lot of these items. And that's it from this collection. I'm going to be using some seed beads today, and these are size 8/0 seed beads. The color is antique silver, and I believe these are the Toho style beads. It doesn't say Toho. I got them on the Jill Weissman Designs website, but they're definitely round seed beads. I'm going to be using some craft wire, and this is by Artistic Wire. It's in a silver color, and it's 18 gauge. And here are a few more items. I have 4 bead caps, and I have 4 charm holders and 2 cord end tips. We're not going to be doing the traditional crimp and fold over method today. We're going to do the squash method. So basically I'm going to squash the crimp bead, and then I'm going to hide it inside these clamshell cord end tips. And I got all of these items on Amazon. These charm holders are easy to find. If you go to Amazon and just put in charm holders or spaces with loops, you should be able to find them. I believe they come in a pack of 4 colors. Same thing with the cord end tips. You can get them on Amazon, and they come in a container with different colors. The bead caps are easy to find as well. If you type in Tibetan style bead caps, you should be able to find them. They usually come in a bag of 200 or more, and they come in different sizes and different styles. Let's pull out the items from the Finding Starter Kit. We're going to use the head pins. These are flat head pins. We're going to use the ear wire hooks. We're going to use the lobster claw clasp. We're only going to use 1. We're going to use the jump rings. We're going to use the crimp beads. And we're going to use the beading wire. And that's it. And I do want to show you something, guys. Let me just pull these head pins out. Sometimes you'll see them bent. In fact, I think a lot of times you'll see them bent like this. And I know many of you already know that you can straighten them out. But if you're a beginner, you may not know that. It's very easy to fix. You're just going to grab the head pin like this with a set of pliers. And then using some nylon coated pliers, you're simply going to straighten it out like this. And that's what I did with most of them. And I'm showing you this because I know some of you are new and you may not know that you can do that, and I don't want you to panic when you see a whole bunch of them bent. So I'm just going to leave them there. Let me remove these. We're going to start by building the focal part of the necklace. Here's the component. I'm going to cut myself some wire. Each one's going to be between 1.5 and 2 inches. If you're a beginner, you should probably cut yourself more, and if you're advanced, you could probably get away with less wire. It's a good idea to straighten your wire before you remove it from the spool. And I'm going to cut myself quite a few pieces. I think I'm going to cut myself 14 pieces. I'm actually going to cut 12 pieces that are 2 inches long and then 2 smaller ones, because 2 of the dangles are going to have the 6mm size beads. So here are my longer pieces and here are the 2 smaller ones. Let me move these off to the side. These are the 6mm size beads. And here are the 10mm size beads in the Aqua color. And these are in the Electroplated blue color. And here are the Galaxy Luster ones. Probably not going to need all of these beads, but I thought I would put out some extra ones just in case. Now I've already been playing around with this design, so I kind of know what I'm doing. My goal is to create some dangles and hang them off these loops. And I'll be honest, I prefer to have an odd size number of loops. But unfortunately, this component has an even size number of loops, which means that we're going to have to probably stick with something symmetrical. I did try to do a bead arrangement that was asymmetrical, but I didn't like it and it ended up being too complicated. And obviously you can arrange your beads however you want. So let me show you what I had in mind. So this is what I had in mind, and I know it doesn't look like much right now, and you're probably thinking it looks horrible, but I think it will look nice once we assemble it onto that. So basically the larger beads are going to be on the long pieces of wire, and then these little ones are going to be on head pins. And the strands will definitely have all of these colors that you see here. So by the time we do the strands, everything is going to coordinate just fine. Of course, the dimensions are a little bit off right now, so basically this focal piece is going to hang a little bit lower than what you see here. But I just wanted to arrange the beads to give you an idea of what I had in mind. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now because we're using 18 gauge wire, we're going to be doing simple loops today. And I'm going to be using this tool. This is called a one-step looper tool. And this one does loops that have an inner diameter of 2.25mm. You can get them in different sizes. I have a tendency to use this size more than anything else. Now if you don't have this tool, don't worry. I will show you how to do a simple loop the regular way. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and put this one on a head pin, like that. I'm going to show you how to do a simple loop the traditional way, and then I will use the one-step looper. And I will warn you that these head pins are really thick and they're very difficult to bend. So if you're a beginner, you may have a little bit of a difficult time, especially when using such small beads. Using some flat nose pliers, I'm going to grab the pin just a little bit above where the bead is. You want to leave a little bit of space above the bead so you can kink your pin. And now I'm going to kink it, just like that. And now I need to trim this pin, and I'm going to leave myself about a ½ inch, maybe a little bit less. And now using some round nose pliers, I'm going to grab the pin so that it's flush. You want to make sure that it's flush so that you can make a nice round loop. And now you're simply going to turn your pliers towards you to form a loop. You want to make sure you close your loop really well, and it is very challenging, like I said before, because this bead is very small, so there's not a whole lot to hold on to. You may need to straighten out your loop, but this is what you should have. So there's one. And now let me go ahead and do the next one using the one-step looper. You're going to thread it on just like that. And now I'm going to place it inside the one-step looper like this. And if you'll notice, there's a hole in the back. you want to make sure the pin goes through the hole. Sometimes if the pin is really small, you don't have to have it go through the hole. It can just sit on top of the jaws of the pliers. But in this case, I do have to put it through the hole because it's long. And the other thing you want to make sure you do is you want to have that bead up against the jaws there, okay? Hold on to your bead and then go ahead and squeeze it. And if you'll notice, it bends the wire and cuts it and forms a loop. Just like that. Now if you'll notice, the loop isn't closed completely. That happens a lot with a one-step looper. So you have to come in here with your round nose pliers and close it the best way you can. And like I said, these pins are really thick and they're difficult to work with when you have small beads. So this one's going to go here. And now let me show you how to do a large bead. I'm going to go ahead and place the wire inside the one-step looper. And the first one doesn't have to go through the hole. It can just sit on top of the jaws like this. Okay. You do want to make sure that it's in the middle. And then go ahead and give it a squeeze. Bend it slightly away from the jaws. Like this. And remove. Flatten out your loop if you have to. And now I'm going to thread on one of these beads. Once again, you want to place it inside your one-step looper. Have the pin go through the hole. Make sure the bead is up against the jaws. And then give it a squeeze. Bend it slightly. And remove it. One thing you do want to do is straighten out your loops. So it's a good idea to grab the loops with two pliers like this to make sure they're facing the same direction. Let me just clean up my workspace a little bit. Now I know this looks like a hot mess right now because nothing's connected yet, but once we mount all of these beads on wire and connect them, it'll look nice. So now I'm going to speed up the film because I don't want this video to be too long. You'll still be able to see the process, but it'll be sped up. So let me do that and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I've mounted all of the beads on wire. So it's looking a little bit better and I think you can get some idea of what it's going to look like. So now it's just a matter of connecting everything. I'm going to start by creating dangles, and once I've created the dangles, then I can attach them to the component. So let me show you how easy this is. I'm simply going to open up this loop like this. Connect this beaded component. And then close up the loop. And now I'm going to open up this loop and connect the next beaded component and close it up. So there's one dangle connected, as you can see, and that's basically how I'm going to do all of them. So let me go ahead and speed up the film again and I'll meet you back. Okay, as you can see, I've created the dangles. It's looking better and better with each step. So now we're going to connect these 6 here to the component, and these 2 dangles are going to be threaded onto the strand. And I'll be using the charm holders for that. But before we do that, let me go ahead and connect these dangles to the component. And that's very easy to do. I'm simply going to open up this loop and connect it to the loop of the component. And now I'm going to close the loop. And that's all there is to it. Pretty easy. Let me go ahead and do the rest of them. As you can see, I've connected all the dangles. And so now we're going to move on to the strands. And because this is such a long focal, I'm not going to make the strands very long. But obviously, if you want something longer, you can do it. I think I want my necklace to be about 18 inches long, maybe a little bit less for my frame. You're going to have to determine that for yourself. Here are my charm holders. I want to connect these first before we make the strands, and these are super easy to connect. We're just going to open up this loop and slide the loop of the charm holder inside the loop of the beaded component, and then close it up. And that's all there is to it. I like using these because there are no seams, and so there's no chance of the beading wire to slide through. Now if you don't have these, you can use 2 jump rings. You're just going to have to make sure your jump rings are closed very well. Let me connect the other 3. So here are my dangles. I've connected the charm holders, as you can see. And let me show you an option in case you don't have the charm holders. I have a 4mm size jump ring here. I'm going to open it up. And now I'm going to slide another 4mm jump ring inside of it like this. And then you would connect your dangle to the jump ring and then close up the jump ring. It's as simple as that. It's not the ideal, like I said, because the beading wire might slide through the gap of the jump ring, which is why you should close it really well. So I'm going to remove this for the time being and pull out the beads for the strands, and I'll be right back. So here are the beads for my strands. I'm hoping that I have enough of these 6mm size beads, but if I don't, I'll finish the top of the necklace with just the seed beads, and that should be fine. Now once we start threading the beads onto beading wire, I'm going to have a series of seed beads at the bottom, and they're going to go inside this component because the hole's pretty big. And I did count the number of beads that I needed before I filmed this, and I need a total of 31 beads. And again, these are the size 80 seed beads. So if you're using a different size seed bead, you might need a different amount. Let me show you what I had in mind. I am going to be using my magic rod to assemble my strand. And if you're not familiar with this, I'll leave a link down below. I use this a lot in my videos. I like using these because I can get accurate measurements, and I can use both large beads and seed beads together. And then what I do is I bring these stoppers in, and that helps me to get accurate measurements. So let me show you. I'm going to remove the stopper. And I think I'm going to start at the bottom of the necklace. Let me get the dangles that are going to go on the strands. So here are my dangles. And I'm going to start with one of these blue faceted beads. And then one of these dangles, the longer one I think. And then an aqua colored bead. And then a shorter one, like this. And now one of these galaxy luster beads. And now I think what I'll do is switch to seed beads. And I'm going to repeat the pattern. So let me thread a blue one. And then a seed bead. And then an aqua one. And a seed bead. And one of these galaxy luster beads. And another seed bead. This is what it looks like so far. So this will be up against the focal part of the necklace. The focal part of the necklace will be over here somewhere. Obviously I can't thread it on because it's curved, so I won't be able to see how it looks until I actually thread it onto beading wire. But this helps me to determine how many beads I'm going to need for the strands. So now I'm going to switch to the pearl beads, the smaller beads, and each one's going to have a seed bead in between. So this is what it'll look like, something like this. So to save time, I'm going to go ahead and thread 2 rods, one for each side of the necklace, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I have my 2 rods loaded. I also have a third one with the seed beads that are going to go inside the component. As you can see, I pulled my stoppers up against the beads, and that way I can get an accurate measurement. This measures almost 2.5 inches. And each one of these rods measure a little bit more than 7.25 inches. So when you add it all up, it's about 17 inches. Plus the cord end tips, the jump rings, and the clasp are going to add another inch. So I should end up with an 18-inch necklace. And like I said before, you can make yours as long as you want to. So now all we need to do is load these beads on beading wire. Here's the beading wire that came in the Finding Starter kit, and I'm not going to cut it just yet. This is about 1 meter's worth, but I'm going to wait till the end to cut it, and that way there won't be so much waste. I am going to put a clip at the end so I don't lose the beads. You can use a bead stopper if you want to. So let me show you how to do this. Let me move this off to the side. And I think I'm going to start at the top of the necklace. So this is the top of the necklace. This is where the clasp is going to go. So now I'm going to remove the stopper that's here. And to remove the stopper, you have to hold on to this side so you don't lose the beads. And then slide the stopper off, just like that. And now I'm simply going to offload from the rod directly onto the beading wire. And you can offload in multiples if you want to. Since the rods hold the beads in alignment, you don't have to search for the bead holes, so it's easy to thread in multiples like this. It all depends on what mood you're in, guys. Sometimes I offload in multiples and sometimes I don't. But that's all there is to it. So let me keep loading these beads. As you can see, I've loaded one side of the necklace, and now we need to thread on the focal part with the dangles. But before we do, I'm going to load these seed beads. So once again, I'm going to remove the stopper from this end very carefully like this. And then I'm going to offload in multiples and thread them directly onto the beading wire. Just like that. That's one of the nice things about the rods. The rods work really well with seed beads. If you've ever tried to pick up seed beads with beading wire, it's very challenging, or tedious, I should say. As you can see, I've loaded the seed beads. And here's my beaded component. I'm going to go ahead and feed the beading wire through it. And now I'm going to slide the seed beads through it as well. So now the seed beads are inside, as you can see, and they fit perfectly. And now I'm going to continue threading these beads. Okay, as you can see, I threaded all the beads onto the beading wire. So now we just need to crimp off the ends and attach the cord end tips. It's actually the other way around. We have to thread on the cord end tips first and then the crimp beads. Here are my 2 cord end tips. And let me get 2 crimp beads out. These are from the Finding Starter kit. So let me show you how to do this. Here's the cord end tip. This is what it looks like. It's like a little clamshell. We're going to thread the beading wire through the bottom. Like this. There's a hole at the bottom, as you can see. So that's what it looks like. And now we're going to thread on a crimp tube, or a crimp bead I should say. These are not crimp tubes, these are crimp beads because they're rounded. And now I'm going to flatten that crimp bead using some flat nose pliers, but you can use chain nose pliers if you want to. You just want to make sure you flatten it really well. And these are actually pretty strong once they're flattened. Of course, you can always test it out. And I'm actually tugging quite a bit, and that's not going to go anywhere. Let me show you again what it looks like. There's the crimp bead, and it's going to fit inside that clamshell just like that. So now we need to trim the beading wire. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's going to sit nicely inside that cord end tip. So now we need to close up the cord end tip, and I'm going to use my pliers. You can use any kind of pliers. You just want to make sure that you do it gently. You don't want to dent that metal. And that's all there is to it. Pretty easy. Let me give you a close-up. So now I'm going to slide the beads all the way down. You want to make sure you eliminate any spaces. Make sure those seed beads are sitting nicely inside that component. Now this beading wire is quite long, as you can see. I have quite a bit left over, but I'm not going to cut it yet because what I want to do is take this to the mirror and hold it up against my chest and see if it's the right length. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and it is the right length. I just wanted to make sure I did that before crimping off this end, because once you crimp it off, obviously there's no turning back. So now I'm going to trim off the excess wire. I don't need this much wire. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to thread on a cord end tip. I'm going in through the bottom like this. And now the crimp bead. And this end is a little bit tricky because you need to make sure that that crimp bead stays inside that clamshell. I'm going to use these chain nose pliers this time because they have a skinny tip and I can get in there. So you want to come in from this angle, and I'm not going to lie to you, this is quite challenging because you have to reach in here, grab hold of your crimp bead, and then once you think you have it, go ahead and squash it. Make sure you squash it really well. And I think that's good enough. And you should always test it to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to snip off the excess beading wire. Close up my clamshell. So these look pretty good, as you can see. And now we just need to attach the clasp. Here are 2 jump rings, and here's a clasp. Let me open up this jump ring. I'm going to connect it to this side and connect the lobster claw clasp, just like that. Close it up. And this part is very important, guys, because that clamshell has a loop that's very skinny. So you want to make sure that your jump ring is closed really well. I can't stress that enough. So that's what we have so far. Let me open up this jump ring now. This side's just going to have the jump ring. Check your jump ring from all angles. And we're done with this necklace. I think it looks nice. I always have to fiddle with the dangles whenever I arrange a necklace like this on my mat. But there it is, guys. I think it looks super cute, and I do want to model it for you, but before we do, let's make a pair of earrings real quick. Okay, here are the materials for the earrings. As you can see, I've already made one of them, and it's very basic, guys. Nothing fancy about this earring. It just has the aqua colored bead at the top and this oval bead at the bottom, and I did put some bead caps on it just to make it look a little bit more interesting. As you can see, I have an ear wire hook. I have my 2 bead caps, my 2 beads. I have a head pin, and I have a piece of wire. It's about 1.5 inches, something like that. You really don't need that much for one bead. Like I said earlier, if you're advanced, you could probably get away with less wire. So let me show you how to assemble this. I'm going to thread on a bead cap, and then the oval bead, like this, and then the other bead cap. And now I'm going to do a simple loop, and I will use my 1-step looper. And you do want to make sure that the bead is right up against the jaws this time, because you don't want those bead caps to be loose. And I'm going to squeeze. bend it. Let me flatten out my loop a little bit. As you can see, there's a little bit of a neck, which I don't like. But that's not a problem. You can actually come in here with your round nose pliers and adjust your loop after you've made it. It's a bit of a pain to have to do that sometimes, but unfortunately that's what happens with a one-step looper. So that one's done. And now let me mount this one on wire. Same thing, I'm going to place it inside my one-step looper like this. Squeeze down to make that first loop. Remove it. Thread the bead on. Place it back inside my one-step looper. Squeeze. Let me just make sure my loops are facing the same direction. And now I'm going to open up this loop. Slide this bead on. Close up the loop. And now I'm going to open up this one. Slide the ear Y hook on and close it up. Let me clean up my workspace. So now we have a nice pair of earrings to go along with the necklace. I know they're very basic, but you don't want to have anything too fancy with such a fancy necklace. So here's the whole set, the mythical mermaid necklace and earring set. I don't know if that's what I'm going to call it, but that was the name of the box. And as you can see, the beads look really nice together. It's amazing what you can achieve when you combine the colors. It's all in the distribution of the colors and the types of beads. And there's nothing that I like better than combining types of beads. We have the lovely pearls at the top, but I tied the whole thing in by using them as dangles down below. And then we have the pop of color with the aqua colored beads. These are definitely the colors of the ocean, and this necklace and earring set is fit for a mermaid. Now I'm far from being a mermaid, but I would like to put this necklace on to show you what it looks like. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Well, what do you think, guys? Isn't this a pretty necklace? I'm a little bit embarrassed wearing it out here in this wilderness because there are people around, believe it or not. But I wanted to make sure I modeled it for you so you can see how it looks. I think it looks gorgeous. And here's the earring. Isn't it pretty? I think it's adorable. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I hope I've given you some inspiration. I hope you can make your own necklaces and earrings. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.